Well, hello and welcome to the latest episode of India Ideas, a show which is all about science and tech, innovation and entrepreneurship. I'm Gautam Roy, and today we're looking at how the union budget has attempted to boost startups in the country. Eligibility for claiming tax holiday has been extended by a year, so has the capital gains exemption for investing in startups. But there's much more, and to talk all about it today, we have with us Yashas Karnam, co-founder of Bellatrix Aerospace, a space tech enterprise which just won the National Startup Award last year. We've got Sachin Pabreja, co-founder Easy Diner, also an award-winning enterprise, which is well-known hospitality aggregator. And we have Ramanan Ramanathan, Mission Director, Atal Innovation Mission, which is the Government of India's flagship initiative to promote a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in the country. He's also Additional Secretary, Niti Aayog. First, to you, Yashas, since you seem to be the youngest among my guests, and also perhaps with the youngest company which has won an award recently. So just tell us, what is your perspective on the budget in terms of what it has for the entire startup ecosystem and specifically for your sector?
I would say it's a very good budget. At least after a COVID scenario, I think you could not expect something better, right? It is obvious that the fiscal deficit would go slightly higher because India needs to come back. It is most like a startup scenario, right? When you're starting off, you have to take risk, invest in capital. Only when you invest, build resources, and have money for everything, that is when you get returns in multiple x of what you're investing. I think this budget is something very similar in those lines, where the government has decided to continue all the development, continue infrastructure, continue promoting startups. And I think it is going to definitely reap rewards in some time. And maybe on the startup tax exemption holiday is also one big thing, maybe extending it by 1 year till March 2022. I can understand how big impact it is for startups, because we just missed it by a few months. We were incorporated in 2015,
Okay.
and the scheme started in 2016. So many times we lagged along that we should have been incorporated a little later. So we realize how important it is for the new startups to get that benefit.
And certainly. Sachin, in terms of your company and the entire startup ecosystem, it's quite different from the kind of Yashas, the company that Yashas has. It's a space tech startups. Yours is in hospitality. But in terms of how the budget provisions for startups, the entire ecosystem, what is your take on it, and specifically for your sector again?
So this budget is a big step towards a long-term vision to open economy and develop boost infrastructure. India has always suffered in tourism due to poor infrastructure in transport also. With focus on government on infra and transport, it will benefit the tourism sector in years to come. Proper communication system will help connecting all major tourist destinations, and it will result in unprecedented growth in tourism.
Okay,
Though people are criticizing the budget for no provisions, tourism welfare, but I see the steps in current budget as a roadmap to the government to boost the tourism. They feel this sector is owned by capitalists. So this time when emergency incentives are required for others, despite all the financial stress and pressure on government to boost infra, they have allocated 2,000 crore for tourism. So I feel like it's just a great budget, and we have seen a boom in the stock market also. So from last 2 days. That's
yes, certainly.
amazing.
We've seen that, although there's been some correction today. But that's a different space altogether. So the less said about it at this stage, the better. A lot of it is speculative too. But Ramanan, what is your impression? Because you're looking at it from within the government, but your task is a slightly different one, to build a culture of innovation and entrepreneurship in the country, right from the basic level. You have to catch young people at their prime in terms of creative thinking.
Thank you. And I think, first and foremost, this budget has to be looked at not just from what it is directly doing to help startups, which some of it you have enunciated in terms of, the tax holiday, one-person companies being allowed, the definition of a startup being enhanced so that the paid-up capital and the capital base is much bigger. But I think the bigger thing here is India has actually started on a journey of innovation, leveraging technology through the last several years. And that's really boosted our global innovation index from wherever we were, 81, to a position of 48 today. But a series of initiatives which have been taken to promote the innovation ecosystem at the school level, at the university level, at the industry level, and at the institutional level, are now being backed by actual provisions for enhancement in healthcare, in infrastructure, in inclusivity, in education, and so on. So I think when we look at it from that light, this is really a great budget for startups and entrepreneurs to get very encouraged, because now they have the opportunity of leveraging their innovative capability to address the needs of this particular market. And I think the Honorable Prime Minister in his Atmanirbhar Bharat clarion call outlined the 5 pillars, and all these 5 pillars, which is going to support Atmanirbhar Bharat, have got a boost in the arm in terms of this particular budget. If you look at the demographic dividend, we want to train number of people in and acquire a culture of innovation. And 15,000 schools have now been identified or are being identified to become model schools for implementing the NEP program, which is a far-reaching program, which is a game changer in terms of our educational policies. And by having these 15,000 schools and investing in them, or 100 Sainik schools, you are now enhancing the ability of not only creating hubs of learning of and implementation of the NEP, but also spreading it across. The second is in the pillar of infrastructure that we talked about, there is tremendous amount of additional funding that's been given. Over 5.5 lakh crore budget has been proposed in the infrastructure. Now we need smart cities, smart villages, smart water management, smart drinking, smart metering, and so on. And this is going to play a role in actually not only extending changes of smart infrastructure in our 650,000 villages and 715 districts, but also extend the digital infrastructure by so much. And then if you look at the healthcare, which is now becoming such an important part in the COVID-19 and post-COVID-19 world, there's almost 137% increase in the budget. And that's about 2 to 2.3 lakh crores. Now, these are exactly what we need to spur the innovation and spur entrepreneurship across the country. And finally, I think the focus on SC/ST community and inclusivity and addressing the socio-economic divides or the digital divides that we have, that has also been given tremendous, 715 Eklavya schools are being established, and 36,000 crores have been allocated for SC/ST based inclusive education and women entrepreneurship and girl children and so on. So I think overall, this budget has many, many points which are very strongly in favor of the startup and the innovation community.
Okay, so Ramanan had a long list there for you to consider, Yashas. But again, if we talk about your sector alone, there's a lot that has happened even before the budget came in. So just tell us, how are you leveraging all that right now to, grow your own business, which is in a very specific area, which was not open to, private enterprises much earlier?
Gautam, as you rightly said, not just for our sector, but even in terms of budget, I think this year's budget has been very special because it started out with even before the COVID relief package, right? So everything that has been announced from the time COVID broke out till today has always had a budget kind of a implication, and there were all serious, bold moves by the government, right? That way, specifically for the space sector, it has been a very, very big year because history of India has never seen a year like this for the space sector. Mainly because government is now promoting startups. It's not taking away anything from what is already there. It is creating an ecosystem and infrastructure for new companies to come and grow and take help and support from the already existing PSUs like ISRO, for that matter, right? ISRO for everybody in the world is already a very big name in terms of its capabilities technically and for frugal engineering. And with that same brand, government is now promoting startups to come, take up the baton and also make it big for the global market, take up innovations here, build them at very low cost, manufacture them with the infrastructure that is already set up and take it up in a big way. And for this, the main move that the government has done is setting up IN-SPACe, which is an independent regulator body that has been set up with in collaboration with ISRO and push from the government, DPIIT and other ministries. And with that, we will be able to set up our own ventures, send our own satellites to space, send our own launch vehicles which can put these satellites in space. Right? With the government sharing ISRO's facilities also, we'll be able to cut down significantly on the cost. And in terms of cost, definitely we'll be able to make it much more affordable than the global companies. And a clear-cut policy is something that has really helped, because till now there was no policy that could allow us to carry out these kinds of activities. We did not know if an Indian company suddenly launched a satellite, would there be any legal implications? Because there is no law. When there is no law, there is a lot of uncertainty whether somebody would take any action against us. Now there is clarity. Government is in fact promoting such activities, which would even probably starting maybe next year, it would lead to more inflows in terms of investments. This is from the ecosystem side. And further to add to it, there is a big boost for the Gaganyaan mission. You may be aware, even this mission, Nirmala Sitharaman ji kind of announced that by December 2021, there would be a first unmanned mission as a laying stone for the main Gaganyaan mission. This will again take India one notch higher in becoming a major power in space, and it will also build the ecosystem along with it. We are now building something similar to the Apollo mission that happened in NASA, right? Now it is happening in India, where we are building multiple technologies that is going to involve multiple agencies and companies throughout the ecosystem. New human-rated technologies need to be built in. Many developmental activities will happen. Technologies will be homegrown in India. So that way, it is a very big boost for the space sector, I definitely say.
Certainly. And the story is quite different as far as tourism, hospitality is concerned. Sachin, perhaps one of the hardest hit industries by the pandemic, really. And the entire ecosystem, as far as you consider the sector, has had to really think on its feet to be able to first survive the shock and then to, claw back as well, and then perhaps look at how things will move forward. And one very positive drought is the kind of allocation perhaps that is there in the budget for the healthcare sector, because it just completely tells us that the government is all in as far as vaccination against COVID is concerned, and building back to the way things were, bringing life the way back to how it was as quickly as possible.
No, correct. You can say that despite all the financial stress and pressure on government to boost infra, they have allocated 2,000 crore for tourism industry also. I think this will, the setup time of OPC decreasing from 182 to 120 days will definitely enable Indian residents to start their business and start generating an income almost instantly, which is fantastic move. To allow NRIs to incorporate OPCs, we'll see international funds boosting our economy is also a move in right direction.
And in terms of the compliance relaxations and the definitions that have changed for small companies, apart from that, certain labor issues as well, do you think they will aid too?
Yeah. Capital gains exemption, tax holidays giving post-pandemic boost. It can safely be said that small companies are going to be winners in this budget. Raising threshold, easing of compliance requirements such as reduced mandatory board meetings, etc., relaxation of Companies Act 2013, revision of MSME definition and increased limit. These are the stuff which is going to help us.
Certainly. And Ramana, in terms of the thrust, we have clearly identified how infrastructure, healthcare, and some other sectors such as manufacturing, especially MSME, have been, the backbone of budget planning as such. Atmanirbhar Bharat is the refrain there, where again startups have a huge role. So if you extend that particular perspective of Atmanirbhar Bharat to startups as well, then a lot of things do add up to push their interest as well, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think, what, from my point of view, and what has been very heartening for me to see is the very holistic viewpoints and concrete actions taken by the government in all of this regard. Let me expound a little more on, some of the budget emphasis. First and foremost, you can't build innovation, entrepreneurship in our country with a great research culture. And 50,000 crores has been allocated for National Research Foundation. Now that's a huge amount of research, and that is what is going to pivot. We have 55,000 startups, 400 incubators, but what has been missing is the research part, and especially applied research. And how do you take from farm to market, or from farm to fork, as they call in agriculture, and so on. So this is going to get a tremendous boost because with great research and especially focus on applied research, you're going to get great innovations. The second is there has been a national language translation mission, which is being established by the government. And this is going to spur a lot of entrepreneurs in actually offering also on one is, the mission itself is more from governance policy perspectives and making it available to India through Digital India and through multiple languages. But I think this is going to spawn a number of other entrepreneurs to address various solutions that we need, not just from a policy or from a governance point of view, but from actual usage on the ground in multiple languages. And this has been something that has been missing in India, and this will receive a tremendous boost for startups. The third is there is an umbrella structure for collaboration between universities, Government of India, and the academic universities in 9 cities that have been announced under the National Research Foundation plan. And I think this is very important because where you're strengthening the collaboration between multiple stakeholders from government, academia, startup community, as well as from private sector, you're going to have greater chances of success. Then some new initiatives like a deep ocean mission has been identified with over 4,000 crores of budget. Now, we are surrounded by water on 3 sides. And, this is something that's going to actually spawn a huge amount of innovation, entrepreneurship and exploration in leveraging, the port innovations and disaster management. And there's a whole lot of not only the infrastructure part, but also things like seaweed farming that has been given special mention by the Honorable Finance Minister in the budget. And then GIFT City has been identified as one of the key initiatives to promote fintech, and especially fintech related to India's needs. And GIFT City, there is a huge budget which has been planned, but more importantly, it's going to spur innovation in fintech and provide a great boost for startup entrepreneurs who are wanting to tap the export market in these areas. And then finally, the waste, major investments in waste management, water management, as well as artificial intelligence. I think, as was pointed out, space tech has already opened up. Seawater missions, deep water missions are opening up. And so you have now with a huge, and defense has also opened up in a very big way in the last several years. We have a defense innovation board with a number of startups which are now participating in private startups which are participating in defense needs. So I think when you look at all of this holistically, it is a tremendous opportunity for the startup and innovation environment to capitalize on it and to build up upon it.
Certainly. And when we talk about startups, especially in defense, and it has an overlap with space as well, doesn't it, Yashas? And apart from that, when it comes to startups such as yours, which rely a lot on science and tech, both even protecting proprietary knowledge and the ease with which you can register patents and perhaps ensure and put your stamp on the technology is also quite important. That is also something that has been pursued, again, ex-budget by the government, but all this is adding up, isn't it?
Absolutely. Yes. And they're all
Absolutely
not only adding up, but they're playing upon each other's fields also, because you need the intersection of space, defense, agriculture to be able to make use of all the innovations. And I think also the fact that technology is becoming affordable and accessible and advanced, we need to see how there is tremendous innovation possible at the intersection of vertical domains, space, communication, and technology.
Yes, Yashas, go ahead. You were adding something.
Just to add to that, in India, you would have seen ISRO came up first, and eventually DRDO also came up. And I think the same industries which work with ISRO also worked with DRDO. When you build capability through one sector, it's always cross-functional. So you have that capability built in, and that can also make India more Atmanirbhar in terms of defense. So that way, I think investing in very deep technologies, taking risk, and setting up more risk funds, right? That's something that India conventionally did not have much, but I think now probably after Niti Aayog came in and they started evaluating the situations, the actual scenario in India, I think that is gradually improving now, maybe even with Niti challenges directly through Niti Aayog. And there are also different other initiatives, funds from ISRO, funds from DRDO, all these are coming up. So I think we need to step that up going forward. Maybe next 5 to 10 years, we need to invest more and so that companies will be able to build with little assistance from the government. So in many countries we see that private sector funds in some portion of it, and government like tops it up with a smaller portion of it, right? Those kinds of
Hmm.
initiatives in very high tech sectors only. So these kinds of things will enable the entire ecosystem. And going forward also, maybe in terms of startups, especially in the space sector, maybe opening up some more technologies and some more facilities would definitely aid us on a long term. And other thing that would actually help investment, I feel, in future budgets, just as a suggestion, is maybe strengthening the legal framework in India. One of the things that probably foreign investors fear in investing in India would be on how good it is to enforce laws here.
Yes.
That takes time, but I think already the government is on it, and it's a matter of time that it gets stronger.
Yes, there's an issue of checks and balances there, and the government is wary of people, unscrupulous people coming in as well. So that is something that is undergoing a lot of scrutiny these days. But things are, I guess, in the pipeline that may be considered. But Sachin, in terms of how COVID has induced this entire opening up of online mode, and a lot of fintech is also supporting businesses such as yours and those that are linked with you. All those restaurants and people paying with credit cards and stuff. There's for digital payments industry, 1,500 crore rupees has been allocated in this budget as well. So are you looking to somehow leverage this as well in terms of what your company is doing apart from aggregating restaurants and hotels? Are you looking at other avenues of aligned businesses as well, so that you can take maximum advantage of all that is changing along in the country?
You see, at the moment, you say banks, government, ourselves, everybody like has struggled during this COVID period. So the best time is like to think over like how we can bring the business back. So banks here are supporting a lot in this, so that the transaction happen. People need to go out in food and beverage to eat into a restaurant, to stay in a hotel. So for that, like government has done best part is giving money in Ministry of Roads and Railways. This will definitely increase tourism. That is one way, because it will be easier to reach from A point to B point. But that's a long vision. But otherwise, like banks are also offering a lot of cashbacks because their transactions have also gone down. And like together, like we are working together. We are working very hard to give a consumer a better deal, better discounts, so that they can eat more.
Okay, wonderful. And eating is also changing a lot of technology coming into that as well.
So we have done like are doing. We have done a lot of research during the COVID days, because how people will react. So basic part is a restaurant, like is the restaurant is safe. So we have created something in that regard. That Easy Safe is another program, like where you go into the app, you click to the restaurant. So which we say like they are taking care of and following the WHO norms. And together we have created the program with the restaurant and hotels, and like which gives you safety, like when you're dining out, and like you can reserve a table at your ease, and whatever information you need, apps on our website and app both are available.
Hmm. Great. And in terms of expectations of what startups wanted prior to the budget, there were a lot of other things as well, which the government perhaps has chosen, Ramanan, not to take a call on at the moment. But do you think these are things that could still happen a little later down the line, such as you know allowing, making it easier for companies to list, come up with IPOs, or when it comes to ESOPs, parity in terms of other equity shares, equity holders?
Yeah, I think, in the startup world, there has been a continuous evolution of policies, and there are new and new things that are coming up based upon the voice of the beneficiaries, either whether they are incubators or startups, or one time, one person innovators and all of that. And I think the fact that one person companies are now being encouraged by the government is itself a major step, because there are many individual innovators who have already created an innovation, and they would like to start up a company, and they find it difficult, because only when you are registered as a formal startup do you also start attracting
Yes.
private funds and all of that. And I just want to add in this, the COVID-19 has been a watershed moment for startups. Just like, the Y2K moment in 2000 was a huge watershed moment for Indian IT, and a $190 billion industry sprung up because of the tremendous awareness that international organizations got about Indian IT and ITES capabilities. Similarly, the COVID-19 was a watershed moment in revealing the extraordinary importance of startups in being able to deal with a COVID-19 and a post-COVID-19 world. And if you look at all the digital technology, I mean, we're all using now technologies, whether it is Zoom or whether it is locally developed applications and so on. There was a huge spurt in the leveraging of these technologies, which were always there, but which was dormant. And suddenly everyone realized the power of these technologies to be able to connect, to manage the supply chain, which was getting disrupted, to be able to provide access, financial payments. I mean, I think the entire thing that the government was investing on in a billion Jan Dhan accounts, a billion mobile phones, and a billion other IDs, that came into full force into managing the supply chain as well as managing life to the extent that we could during the COVID-19 crisis. And more importantly, we ran Atal Innovation Mission. We coordinate a search for COVID-19 preventive, assistive, and potentially curative solutions, coordinating it with DBT, DST, and Startup India. And what we found, to our amazing surprise, was that 1,500 solutions got offered to this committee within a period of 4 weeks, where many startups had pivoted some of their existing AI-based and IoT-based solutions to meet the crisis. Now that shows the agility and the flexibility of our startups to be able to respond to crises like this. And in a post-COVID-19 world, as you were asking, the other panelists here, in a post-COVID-19 world, startups are going to play a very important role in being able to address not only opportunities, but challenges that we foresee in a post-COVID-19 world. So I think, the government's policies will continue to evolve, and it will become more and more startup friendly. It is already, because the government has stated in many of the forums that technology, innovation, science, research is going to, lead India's march into this century and the next century.
Oh, there's no doubt about that. The kind of problem solving that startups particularly have been doing, especially in this phase, is a huge indicator of that. And the government is betting very strongly on it. That is what is being reflected in the budget as well. And I'm sure it'll be built upon ex-budget as well, even through the course of the new financial year. Thanks a lot for joining us today, all of you.
Thank you.